Hey guys, welcome to the channel and welcome to another live podcast. I say live, if you're watching on YouTube you won't see this live, but we are currently going out live to Twitch. We do it every single week. I think we've missed like 2 in the whole of 2019, which is really, really good. Just a quick heads up, we might miss next week, and I'd say that because on Monday I'm flying back from Gibraltar after No Retreat 8. I don't know exactly what time I'm going to get home. We should land around lunchtime-ish and then be able to drive back, and I'm hoping I can still get on a stream because I'm optimistic like that, but it might not happen. So I'll give you the heads up now. It's planned for Monday. I'll let you guys know if it's not going to happen, and I'll put an announcement out on Discord and on Facebook, so everyone knows that we won't be here. Otherwise, we do this every single week. We talk about random topics. We've been covering the recent supplements, the new codexes, all that kind of stuff. So there's loads and loads of content we stick out via these live streams. If you want to join in live, if you want to be part of the Twitch, can't say that, part of the Twitch chat, and that's what I just merged those words together, Chris. Yeah, it started well. Yeah. If you want to be part of the Twitch chat, part of the live engagement, then you can jump on to Twitch and search for no longer Warhammer Liam. We've rebranded the Twitch page. You now search for Deployment Zone on Twitch. Warhammer Liam sounded naff anyway. So you search for Deployment Zone on Twitch, or you go to twitch.tv/Deployment Zone and you'll find our page and you can hit follow and it can give you notifications and stuff like that. If you've got Amazon Prime, you can connect to your Amazon Prime account and you can subscribe to us when we're live, and that financially supports us as a channel, but because you've got Amazon Prime, it doesn't cost you a penny. If you haven't got Amazon Prime, it'll cost you £80 and I think it's worth it. So do that. Otherwise, Deployment Zone has been, or the Twitch chat's been rebranded to Deployment Zone because we have a website. It's on the screen right now. It's www.deploymentzone.tv. That's Winters and
Winters and I.
Yeah?
Yeah,
it's our website. Yeah. That's the better way of saying it. It's our website. We put a battle report on there every single Tuesday and have done since the day of launch, which was back in 2018. But also we've got lots of not live campaigns, we've got lots of campaigns going on, but we've got a new campaign that's starting really, really soon. I think the first episode's going live on Friday of the brand new Champion of Chaos campaign, which is a campaign between my World Eaters and Winters' Death Guard, and we get to see who becomes the Champion of Chaos over a number of games.
That's very exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that one. So you can check out deploymentzone.tv, you can subscribe to us on there. We've also recently merged the Discords and the Patreon pages, so we're getting rid of the Warhammer Patreon page, we're getting rid of the Winters SEO Patreon page, and we've got the DZTV Patreon page. You can head on over to Patreon, search for DZTV, pledge on there if you want to, and you can come and be part of our brand new Discord community. And I say new, but it's already exploded in a week.
Oh, goodness me, yeah.
It's incredibly busy, and it's full of amazing hobby as well.
Yeah.
I'm really pleased with that.
Yeah, it's all coming up DZTV right now, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
If you're watching it on YouTube, it will look no different, and we're still called Warhammer for now, because there's no easy or obvious way to merge YouTube channels either. So, we're all going down that road, down that DZTV road. Mm-hmm. So it's DZTV Twitch. The podcast, if you want to listen to this on Podbean, Spotify, or iTunes, is now the Deployment Zone podcast as well. So make sure you're searching Deployment Zone everywhere or DZTV, and you should find us. I think that covers all of that normal nonsense.
Sounds good to me,
yeah. Perfect.
There's a lot there.
There's a lot in there.
Yeah, there is.
This is why I did the intro for you and Mikey P before.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot to cover.
I can't remember all that. So.
Yeah. So tonight we have picked a random topic that was dropped in Discord by our wonderful chatbot Ridley recently. Mm-hmm. And he suggested a topic of how do you build an army? And it sounds like an obvious question. And I don't just mean glue 2 bits together and there you go. We're talking about how you go from concept to, or idea to concept to finalised army, what keeps people motivated, all that kind of stuff. And I think that's something that we can disappear off on loads of random tangents and chat about forever.
There's a lot of different ways to approach it as well. That's the thing.
There is
when you start thinking about it, there is actually a lot more to it than just I'm going to go and build an army.
Yeah,
there's loads of approaches.
So there's one. This is the thing, right? So there's one common statement that people will make every single time you say, "How do I pick an army?" So one of the bonuses of our hobby Discord that we've got as a community, we have a lot of people that have returned to 40k in 8th edition, and that's a common story across the whole of 8th edition as well. Loads of people have returned to the hobby in 8th for a number of reasons. It's more simplified, it's easier to get to grips with, and actually it's more accessible with things like the Conquest magazines and stuff. It's a lot more accessible for people. So it's a really common story, which is amazing for us.
It's incredible.
Right? More opponents, more stuff, more money in GW's pocket, which means they create more product. It's incredible.
And they really pushed the whole community thing with it as well, didn't they? With they kind of changed, the face of them changed with 8th as well.
Massively.
So many new things coming
in.
And
they had to. So in 7th edition, they didn't really have a YouTube channel.
No.
And they didn't have any social media presence at all.
No.
Any communication with GW was via their customer service email,
Yeah.
etc. And now they're on Twitch and they're on Facebook and they're on Twitter and they're on everywhere.
Yeah.
They're absolutely everywhere.
They've turned into like a really friendly,
Yeah.
welcoming entity from what they used to be. So
Absolutely, and they
that's
also
really
did.
good.
They also did. They do this thing now where even on Instagram, if you have the right tag on Instagram, they can choose to steal your image and put it on their website,
Yeah.
the main website.
People love that as well. Yeah,
It's huge.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Such a simple thing.
Yeah.
But that's
Engages
how,
everybody.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
how much more engaged they are with the community nowadays, which is really, really important. So 8th is more accessible. And a lot of people come back and they ask a question, which is one of the reasons why I thought this would be such a great topic. They ask a question which is, who do I start? Where do I start? Who do I start with? What army do I pick? Where do I start? I've been thinking about this army, this army, this army, and where do I start? I will say the most common answer is the first one we'll talk about.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people in the chat would probably say the same thing. The most common answer that comes up for people when they say, I want to pick a new army, where do I start? A lot of people go, pick what you think's cool.
Yeah.
Rule of cool is the number one suggestion from anybody.
Yeah.
And I will argue that later.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a counter to that.
Yes.
But rule of cool is definitely one of the best ways, I think, to pick something.
If you want to commit to something, if this is your like first time back in, and you want to commit from all angles, you've got to have something that you're interested in, like working with to start off with. But it's like I don't want to go too far into the different branches, so derail it now. But it really depends.
You've watched these, right? That's what happens a lot anyway.
But it really depends. To me, what that person wants to get out of the hobby.
Yeah.
Is that person looking to win and play games? Is that person looking to have cool models on the table? Is that person just looking to paint models for the hobby? Because that's really going to change the whole, just pick a rule of cool. Pick what you like the look of.
Yeah, it does. It does make a difference. So rule of cool does make a difference. But by rule of cool, a lot of people are referring to what models look like. Yeah. So I think that looks cool. Yeah. So I'm going to buy that model, and therefore I'm more likely to put it together. I'm more likely to paint it. I'm more likely to be invested in that because I think the model's cool. And that's true. And if you're picking an army, and you pick an army, and you're selecting your army because you've read on a forum somewhere that this is the most powerful army in the world right now, Iron Hands, there's a strong possibility you might not be that invested come halfway down the line because you think, actually, I'm bored of these dreadnoughts and I'm bored of these Primaris Marines because I just don't think they're that interesting. And which is perfectly fine.
That army is going to be subject to changes coming up as well. And as we've seen with every kind of net list coming up, that will get that GW target those lists for changes, right? Especially if they're like consistently one certain build is winning tournaments, and everyone's bringing whatever.
Everyone's bringing G-Man because he allows you to full reroll to wounds.
Everyone's bringing G-Man.
And what's happened now?
It will change, and all of a sudden, if you weren't that into the models in the first place, you might find yourself not having the winning list anymore, and having some models that aren't your favourite. So
I will also say that if you do go down that route for your first army in the hobby, it might be that you have a negative experience. And I say that because if you do decide, actually, I'm going to go for what I think is the strongest build right now in 8th edition is my first army, or the army I'm going to build next, you're going to find, I think, more often than not, yourself playing players who are in the same headspace.
Yes.
And a lot of them might be more experienced. Some of them might have more disposable to put down on the latest meta, etc. And I think that can put a lot of people off. I know a few people that have started, they've entered essentially an arms race, right?
Yes.
With sometimes even with friends, actually.
Yep.
And it gets to a point where it gets not that nice because you're just turning up to play a game that, for me, there's no better feeling than having a game that lasts at least the full 5 battle rounds.
Yeah.
And it's decided on the 5th, 6th, or 7th battle round.
Absolutely.
That stuff is amazing, and you don't know. You or your opponent don't know until the very end who's going to win that game. They're the most enjoyable.
Absolutely.
If you enter this competitive arms race and this spamming the most powerful units you possibly can, you're normally not going to get to that level.
Yeah.
You're not going to get to sort of turn. Most of them are over turn 2 or 3.
Yeah, it's like launching nukes at each other, basically, isn't it? And the first one's to hit. That's it. And then the game's
there's channels
over.
out there that show that stuff.
Yeah.
So that you can find it. Go and find it on YouTube. There's channels out there that show competitive play, they show RTC play, all that kind of stuff, and you will see. And people love competitive play. Some people, so that's fine. Let them do them.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, if you're coming back to the hobby and you're building your army for the first time, rule of cool for me is the only way to go.
Yes.
For the first army you pick.
Yeah, and this is interesting with the new Space Marine Codex as well. It's quite safe to say that a lot of people start with the models that GW put out there as the beginner models, right? Up until recently, they weren't necessarily the most powerful. So a lot of people coming back have had that first experience of Space Marines, which to a lot of people, they are the rule of cool.
Absolutely. They're the heroes.
They're the heroes, yeah. And you look at that and you think, and I think people probably look at them and think, these guys are the heroes. These are the tough guys of 40k. They might not know much about the lore.
Yeah.
So they go for those, and GW has sort of guided people towards Space Marines as like a first army for a long time.
Absolutely. I mean, even look at Conquest that has Space Marines in it. A lot of the early easy to build stuff or the painting kits came with Space Marines in it.
Yeah.
It was all Space Marine stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And now they've kind of made them more powerful with this latest codex. It's going to be interesting to see whether people have a more positive experience with that first army. Now, because I know a lot of people down my games club really did struggle. Like, I've got Ultramarines. And they come down and you're like, sorry, mate, I'm just going
to... So this is interesting as well, right? Because I'm curious as to whether... and I don't know what people think on Twitch and YouTube. I'm curious as to whether one of the reasons why Marines... So Marines, I think, needed extra power. Marines needed a boost. Yeah, they needed to be
in
better.
One way or another.
Yeah, they absolutely needed to be better. They were too bad. And with the whole Primaris launch and all the Mark 10 stuff that came out, they had a codex where if you chose to use all the new shiny that they were encouraging you to buy, you basically had no stratagems. It was not a lot you could do. So they definitely needed the rework.
Yeah.
I've got no complaints about that at all. And a little part of me, maybe cynical even, wonders if part of the reason why they did that was because new people were coming into the hobby. They were being shoehorned towards Marines as being, and they're some of the easy ones to paint. They've got nice, crisp, clean lines. They're some of the easiest to put together. They're not quite so fiddly and spindly. They're nice, big, solid models, most of them. And they're probably the easiest to understand as an army as well. And I wonder if a lot of people had a really negative experience when they then put them on the table against... I don't know, Eldar, Dark Eldar, etc. And went, I've got this new army. I'm in the hobby. Look at my cool space marine. I've just been tabled.
Thinking that they're the hard men of the galaxy.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a Marine. Look how hard I got punched in the face by an elf. And I died. So I wonder if a little part of powering that codex up was to go, your new army isn't going to get curb stomped every time.
Yes.
There was people out there that did suggest that the reason why Marines were so weak is because they were the gateway drug.
Yes.
And then you would have to move on to a different army to be able to compete.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot, and it's quite hard to deny in certain situations when you know that the Space Marines are being pushed as a force like that, being pushed as an entry level force, and you just know that they're not gonna do that well. I guess the idea was there's a bit of balance when you played with the Death Guard that came with them, and you kind of had that. But as soon as you step outside of that, you're gonna go and play against a Craftworld Eldar player and be like, wow, all of their weapons are better than mine.
Yeah.
Everything
and they can move faster
than
me, and they've got absolutely.
Yeah, I don't understand all the mechanics just yet, but all I know is that guy, everything he had was just better than mine. I'm going to start looking at more models. Then you buy your second army.
Absolutely,
could well be that. But
now, when we say rule of cool, back on topic, for how to start collecting or how to build an army, rule of cool is definitely a thing. So, but what a lot of people will say rule of cool, and what they'll refer to straight away. I'm sure you've heard this. What they'll refer to straight away is what the army stroke models look like. So you've just touched on it with Marines. A lot of people think, especially Primaris, and hats off to Games Workshop. I mean, I don't like the jumpy guys. I don't like the Inceptors or the Suppressors. That's my preference. But everything else in that Primaris range, from Gravis to the normal Mark 10 stuff, I think I can't look at normal Marines anymore.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't think they are the same. And it's a shame. It's a little bit of a shame for me. Things like I was talking in another chat previously today about things like Deathwing and stuff. And it makes me sad that they don't stand up anymore to Mark 10.
Yeah, they've had their day though. That's the thing.
They have, but so that's a rule of cool reason. Like they look cool. They're hard looking.
And Phobos is amazing. I'm so stuff. Into Phobos armor, man.
They're hard looking Marines. They're big, powerful looking super soldiers. They're cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Other people like things like Elder Flyers. I know they're not. I know they're I know that they're an interesting point, Eldar flyers, considering how strong they are.
Yep.
But they're sleek-looking jet
Oh
fighters.
yeah, they're cool looking.
Right,
Yeah.
so people love that. Some people think that the bric-a-brac look of orcs who have smashed together trucks and stuff looks really cool.
Yep.
So actually, some people love undead robots with big glowing weapons,
Yeah.
i.e. Necrons. So there's something there for everyone in
They've
terms
covered
of
a
looks.
lot of groups. Yeah, they've covered a lot of stuff, and even bringing in Tau as well as kind of the slightly different, cleaner look.
Yeah.
They've tried to cover a bit of everything, so everyone should find something they really
And the
like
other thing
look
they do in terms of rule of cool, in terms of look and aesthetic, is if you look at a lot of them and dig a little bit deeper, you can see some sort of historic influence in a lot of stuff that exists. Whether there's an Egyptian or a Roman type influence or whatever, there's some kind of historic influence to a lot of the stuff as well.
Yeah.
And even if it's not historic, some of it's current day. A lot of people have suggested that Tau look like kind of like Japanese anime type robot. People have suggested.
Yeah,
that,
I know.
I'm not saying I don't.
I
don't know that subject, but
stop it.
But so some people do go based purely on looks. And what I want to chuck out there as an argument as well is selecting an army for rule of cool doesn't actually have to be based on aesthetic.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't have to be based on look.
No.
For me, actually, I think you're going to find more investment when putting an army together if what you think is cool isn't what they look like. That helps, absolutely, and it helps it. So there's models I avoid actively because the model itself, I don't like it.
Yes.
For my chaos, for anything I own, army-wise, there's models that I won't. I bought the new Master of Executions.
Right. Okay.
Put the model together. It's nice. But when you compare it to the new Dark Apostle, when you compare it to the new Abaddon, when you compare it to all the new stuff that came out recently, for me, it doesn't quite stand up to the standard.
I thought he was a little bit mismatched as well. He
looks odd.
Fit. Yeah, he slightly stands out, and he just wasn't. He's a bit lost. He's a bit lost in there. So yeah, I'm on that.
So I have him. I'm not invested in painting him or getting him ready for the channel because I don't like the model.
Yeah.
However, so the aesthetic's a massive thing. It makes a difference. It does. But if you're more invested in the narrative of your chosen faction, whether that be a already established canon or whether it's your own, and you've gone, I like the way the Iron Warriors operate. I like what they're all about. So I'm going to now create my own story around my own Warsmith. If you think that narrative, if you think that background for that army is really, really cool, I think you are over 50% of the way there to being able to finish that army.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also, that will dictate your model choice as well, a lot more. If you've got an investment in that narrative, because you've got an idea of what the army has to be to achieve the narrative that you've been thinking of.
Yeah.
And that, and that's why some people still run mini marines and things like that as well, despite the fact they might not be the best choice, because they've got that kind of idea in their head, or it's based on a story that they really like or whatever.
Yeah. It's interesting. It is interesting. I would also say that I think that you're going to be even more invested if that backstory is your own development of that narrative, though. So if you World Eaters, right? The Eternal Slaughter World Eaters. I love the World Eater lore. I like the fact that they're crazy lunatics. I like the Butchers Now thing. I don't know why. I just like that mental,
because it's really cool.
Yeah,
it's
just very different to a lot of other stuff that exists in the galaxy currently. Yeah. I mean, you could argue to a degree that World Eaters are borderline orcs to some extent. They just want to fight.
Yeah, they're just pure savagery.
and I think that's really cool. Yeah. However, developing that into the Eternal Slaughters narrative and how I want that to look makes me more invested, because I feel like I'm less controlled by the original lore. Does that make sense? Okay, so
you're saying that the appeal in it is that you're branching out into your own version of this and you're making it yours.
Yeah, so Winters is 13th.
Putting your stamp on it, yeah.
Winters is 13th. So basically, because he's the 13th, and he's not Ultramarines, he's not Iron Hands, and he's not Salamanders, because he's the 13th, he can kind of go whichever direction he wants.
Yep.
And in 2 months' time, if he wants to change the direction he's going with the 13th, he can do it.
Yeah.
Which makes it a lot harder, I think, to get bored with them.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, because you've opened it up to be, because a lot of us have got this same problem of there's loads of shiny things that we want to change all the time. Yeah. And you're like, ooh, yeah. So if you've got that flexibility built into your army, well, that's even better then, isn't it? So
yeah.
Then you can afford to pay your rent.
And it's interesting, actually. Is it, and all your bills? And, and not have your car towed.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because I would also argue with 8th and the way that 8th works now with things like chapter tactics and craft order tributes and all that kind of stuff. I would argue that Games Workshop are pushing us a little bit more towards. I'm arguing myself now. I don't understand. I don't know if I 100% think this is true. I would argue that GW are kind of pushing us towards our own custom narrative.
Okay.
Because if you have a chapter that's called Brom Marines, we've done this before, right?
Yeah.
What it gives you the option to do is mix and match. So one game you could play with your successor chapter tactics of this one and this one.
Yep.
And you can have reroll wounds and -1 to hit. I don't know what the successor chapters are. I haven't read it for a while. But then 3 or 4 games later, you want to change the direction your chapter's going in. You want to use it. You were using primarily intercessors, etc. Next game, you want to go for a hard-hitting Phobos force.
Yeah.
You can then change your successor chapter.
Yeah.
If you're painted as Ultramarine, so Brom he's not in a bad place with Ultramarines because they've got a good codex and a good supplement. Yep. But if he wants to do something salamandery with them, he can't.
Yep.
So
he's stuck in that.
Having your own narrative, that sort of rule of cool, you're invested in the narrative and it's yours.
Yeah.
I think that's an even stronger pull for people because it just gives you a lot more options.
Yep.
And it stops you from getting a little bit bored and a little bit.
That makes sense. I'll tell you what I think might be going on there as well. So this is part to do with, slightly off topic, but it's partly to do with the fact that we've said that GW's changed a lot with 8th and surrounding 8th. I think they're trying to push things in a lot of different directions. They're trying to appeal to younger people. They're trying to appeal here and there. You know, they've spread out and they've changed their image a lot and they've become a lot more open.
Absolutely.
And I think that they have to remember to, with all the easy build kits and everything coming out and all the accessibility to it, they have to remember to kind of hold on to different aspects of their original community.
Yes.
And I think part of that is to keep customization in, because I remember the old codexes used to say stuff like, you are the commander of this army.
Yeah.
And or your warlord unit, your warlord, your HQs represent you.
Yeah. That was in an old
That's how they used
book.
to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think they're trying to hold on to that because they know they've now got, which is a very difficult situation to deal with. They've now got a fan base ranging from like kids just starting to blokes that have been playing since Rogue Trader, and that's a huge variety of opinions and people
there is,
to try and keep happy. So they're going to have to keep some channels open.
Do you know, this is a conversation I've had with Winters a few times, and I've actually seen stuff in the Discord that have been sort of aligned to this specific topic.
Yeah.
It's not quite exactly how to build an army, but it's interesting. Some people have suggested that with things like stratagems and stuff now, the game's becoming too complex. 8th edition that was originally launched as the most simple edition ever. They've suggested that, so for example, if you are Ultramarines or currently Iron Hands, Raven Guard or White Scars, you not only have 4 pages of stratagems in your codex, but you also have an additional 2 pages in your index, and you've therefore got, not index supplement, you've therefore got 6 pages of stratagems.
Yep.
Right? For the new 14, 15, 16-year-old player, yes, that's very complex.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to remind people is that you don't have to use them.
No, you don't.
When they drop the Vigilus stuff and all the extra detachments, what I was trying to say to Winters was, you don't need that book.
No.
You didn't need the Vigilus Ablaze book to run a Black Legion army.
Yep.
You wouldn't get all the same benefits and bonuses. That's true.
Yep.
But you could still run Black Legion without it. And ultimately, if you really want to strip it back to basic 40k, you can still use a rulebook and a codex, and you could conceivably run a 2,000 point game, me versus you, and ignore stratagems altogether.
Yeah,
you could.
You could probably just run off your index if you and your mate were playing. You could just run off that. Did they even have a stratagem in the index? I can't remember now.
No. So when the indexes were out, you had 3 stratagems in the main rulebook: the command point reroll, intercepting or interrupting combat, and auto pass morale. That was all you had. Was those 3?
Was there a relic
strats.
you could choose from the index?
No, it was 3 warlord traits, 3 stratagems.
It was really generic. It was boiled down. So you could just, if you were playing your first game, you could literally do that kind of thing. Even if you've got your codex, just be like, let's just play a game without any of the extra stuff and work our way up like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. You can go right back to basics.
Yeah.
So for new players, ruler call's huge, in my opinion. Ruler call is huge. So you have to like what they look, but I'm saying it's multi-layered. You have to like what the models look like and the aesthetic of them, but also be a little bit invested in the story that army tells.
Yeah.
Whether it's evil space robots who just want to conquer the galaxy, or evil bugs who just want to devour everything, or whether it's the heroes in the big shiny armor, you need to be invested in the narrative as well. I think if you don't have at least one of those two parts, I don't know many people, apart from highly competitive players, who, when they pick another army, don't have one of both of those pieces of the puzzle.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Like, I don't know anyone who goes, well, I think G-Seed occults are really, really cool to look at. I couldn't give a crap about the narrative. That's a bit rubbish, but I'm going to collect them because they look like cool models. I don't know anyone that does that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyone who's a player, I would think, will go, oh, those models look cool. And most people will then...
Plants a seed, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's the thing. And
so the look draws you in.
You don't do it straight away, but it sits in there. It's like, there's always that tipping point somewhere. And for me, with Tau was an interesting one. So I was really, really into my Chaos stuff at the time.
Yeah.
And I saw a Riptide on the table, and I was like, you know what, I've never seen a Riptide. I've never fought a Riptide before, and I saw it on the table and I thought, that's really awesome.
Yeah.
And I found myself just like looking at the website and thinking about looking up designs for it and stuff, and it just goes over time, and you keep it in the back of your mind there, and you occasionally have a chat with people and go, oh, I fancy a Tau army one day, and then there's that tipping point and you've already got that sort of build up inside, you know what
absolutely.
I mean? And I know that there's other armies that are in the back now as well. They're just saying, "Oh, I'm way in the back there."
Yeah,
and just waiting for the right time where someone said, "Oh, I've got
and I've in all seriousness, I've had it before. I've looked at models and I've gone, "Oh, those models look kind of cool. I like those." Okay, I'm interested now. I'm same as you. My interest is sparked, and I won't necessarily straight away go delving straight in.
Yeah.
And then over time, I might start to read some fluff. What I'll tend to do is this is genuine as well. I'll go, that army sounds quite cool. I quite like that, and I'll go straight to somewhere like Black Library and down, because I don't read books because I haven't got time.
Yep.
I listen to audiobooks, and I'll download an audiobook and I'll stick it on in the car going to and from work, and I'll listen to the narrative about that force. And at the end of the book, and I do finish most of them. The only one I haven't finished recently is Fulgrim. I finished most books. At the end of it, I'm going, yeah, really cool.
Yeah.
I really like that. That was a really good story, and therefore I'm already a little bit more invested in the army and the force. Or I'll go, the book was okay, but I'm not going, I need to listen to more.
Yeah,
I need to absorb more. And if I have the latter part where I'm like, I need to absorb more, then I know that this is an army I'm interested in.
To it.
Yeah. If I'm like, meh, I probably won't bother building the models I've already bought. Normally.
Yeah, it's got some of them already, I'm exactly the same thing. I've got an Audible account, and every single thing I've got just goes on some kind of 40k or 30k based audiobook. Yeah. But I think with the Tau as well, I got there's a Damocles Space Marine Battles Damocles series, which is lots of short stories, and all that did was really hype me up for it, because they're quite interesting. It was a lot of they cover a lot of the different aspects, because it's short stories. You get loads of different angles, and I really did like a lot of it. It's
interesting how much of an influence just reading or listening to one or two stories can have on you as well.
And sometimes it really changes what you might have thought about an army at first glance, especially with Tau. When you get into some of the fiction that's written about them, they do come across very differently to how they're presented elsewhere, or what the kind of meme, how the internet is talking about them, or what kind of jokes are being made about them, or whatever.
I think a lot of that, my opinion is, a lot of that also comes from Historic Games Workshop. Yeah. So Tau have got a very bad rep.
Oh yeah, of course
and they're a strong army at the moment. They're doing well.
Yeah.
Their bad rep doesn't come from 8th. Their bad rep comes from 7th.
Yeah.
There's still very strong Tau builds. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to No Retreat 8 next weekend.
Yep.
My first opponent on the Saturday morning is against Tom something, I think, and he's playing Tau against me, and he's playing Tau Sept against my World Eaters.
Okay.
And he's bringing Triptides.
Yeah.
There's 3 Riptides. Yeah. But the thing is, with the Glory of 8th edition as well, so SN also run a dual mission system where you've got basically an Eternal War and a Maelstrom at the same time.
Yep.
8th edition, I look at that list and I don't think it's an auto lose. I think I have an uphill fight and I'm more likely to lose, categorically.
Yep.
But I still think I have a chance to win if things go my way or don't go his way.
Yeah.
Okay. In 7th edition, RIP would have been the case.
Yeah.
World Eaters against that sort of Tau, I'm gone. I might as well not bother playing. So I think, and that's where their reputation comes from. So there's a lot of like memes and
when they
stuff
first came out, I mean, there's no denying that they were brought out to appeal to a different type of player. That's I'm not going to sit and argue that, even though I want to. Even though I want it to be true, but it was designed.
That's the whole point in having so many different factions and options. Is there is literally something for everyone. For you to make it your 40k.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and that's the beauty.
I look at the artwork for Tau, and it doesn't look like anime stuff to me in the artwork. It's not represented that way. It's still got that kind of gritty.
I don't think it is either,
look.
but I don't know anime, so
yeah. So it's but that's just me desperately trying to argue that I'm not a weeb.
Yeah, good luck with that, mate.
I'm not. Stop it.
So I think stage one is we're now building a whole process. Look at this. This is proper top tip stuff. Wow. Stage one is find something that appeals to you aesthetically. So you look at it, you go, I like that Eldar flyer. I like that Necron overlord. I like that, whatever it might be. Space Marine hero. Step two, before you go buying droves of models and spending hundreds of pounds, dig into the narrative.
Yes.
Make sure the narrative sings to you and it interests you.
And a good way to do that, the codexes have got really cool. The very first bit in all the codexes is like a little rundown of what it's like to. This codex is going to let you crush empires.
So I think codexes, in seriousness, are all you need to start. If you look at Death Guard and you think, I really like those models, I really like that Death and Decay look. Yeah. For me, stage two is buy the codex and codex only.
But definitely get it before the models. It changes everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once you get committed to it. Once you've read through, you've had a chance to digest what's available.
There's two things that does for you with buying the codex. With three, really, if we're going to be a bit more pedantic. So option one, or first part of that three part is you get to read. So the first 2/3 of the book are all narrative based.
It's all narrative, yeah.
And it's simplified and simplistic, but it will give you the basic history of your force from sort of start to where we are now, present day. And it gives you enough to go, I really like this. I really like their story. I really like and some of them have got disastrous stories. Some of them have got really heroic stories. I really like the story of this army.
You get the timelines as well now. And something that I've noticed they've done a lot of is they like doing all the little, it talks about other war bands or other sub factions of whatever that is, to show you, and quite often they really go off on a little tangent about this particular person. They give them a name and everything to show you how different it can be from the mainline story for that. So it'll be like, and this guy is actually the master of this really weird niche area of Death Guard lore and does this, and this guy does that, and I really like that.
That's really cool.
It gives you something to work off your own.
It even has a page for each of the units. So if it's a specific unit or model that's pulled you in, you can go and read the narrative on that specific unit. It's only a page, but it's something. It gives you something that tells you the story about what that thing is and how it performs on the battlefield.
You need that for Tyranids because they have so many things. When I picked up the Tyranid, I was like, what is all this? And every single unit has a page illustration and tells you what kind of spike it's got coming out of where. Yeah, it's good stuff.
And that's cool. So that gives it a bit of flavour. Then the next stage of the book is rules. So once you've finished reading your narrative and you go, actually, I really like this, it sings to me, that's cool, that's good. Yep. You're most of the way there then, I think, to selecting an army. And I think you are genuinely most of the way there. But, and this is an important part that a lot of people, specifically people that like our kind of content, that like narrative stuff, this is the part that I think people genuinely often fall down at, I'll be honest. You've looked at the army and gone, I like that. You've bought your codex, you've read your narrative. I like the narrative. I like the models. I like the narrative. A lot of people at that point would go and buy a load of models and start putting it together. Fine, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yep.
But then you put it on the tabletop and realise that what you've put together is dog shit.
Yeah.
And
I've never done that before with every army I've ever bought.
But it happens. It does happen.
No, because the excitement kicks in and you just go crazy, don't you?
And let's say you're working on a budget, Chris, right? Let's say you don't have tons and tons of money and you are working on a budget.
Yeah.
And so you read your narrative and you go, actually, I'll chuck a rough list together looking at the codex kind of ish, and I'll have the captain and I'll have a lieutenant and I'll have 30 Primaris Marines and a Redemptor and a Repulsor and what have you, etc., etc., etc. There's my army, bang, it's on the table. I've spent, I don't know what it costs, 500 quid, 400 quid, whatever it might be, including paints and stuff. I've just got smashed to pieces.
Yeah.
Oh, that's all right. It's probably just I've just got smashed to pieces again.
Yeah.
And if you that, and then you, one of two things happens at that point. You go, I don't like this army anymore because I get beat all the time,
Yeah.
or you end up dropping even more cash to try and
to fill in and you end up not using half the stuff you've bought.
exactly that sits on the shelf, either unpainted or just doing nothing.
Yeah.
So once you've read the narrative, if you're going to build your faction, then go to the rules and have a good read.
Yeah.
And I mean have a good read.
And figure out the synergies and read what all of the buffs from all of the HQ units
Synergies
do.
in 8th is massive.
It's huge, yeah.
And I will sit there with a codex and I will flick between pages.
Yeah.
And Winter's just the same. I've seen
Making up ideas, right?
and you'll go, oh, I wonder if that works with. Flip
Yeah.
the page. No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
And, oh, I wonder if that works. Oh, that works with that. Oh my god, I don't know if that's supposed to happen like that. And,
Yeah.
and then you go into warlord traits, stratagems, psychic powers, etc., and continue to do that same thing.
Yeah.
You've got to look at rules that you like because this army's predominantly shooting, and actually I wanted a melee focused army. Maybe not then for me.
Yeah.
Or actually, this is exactly what I wanted. This is get up in your face, punch him really hard. This is what I'm after. This is what I like, and I can build that type of army that I like with this particular army that has the narrative that I'm already invested in and the models that I like. Now, at that point that you've read the rules and you go, I like the rules. I think they're strong enough. I'd say at that point you're sort of 99%. You've picked your army.
The hard thing about that, just to touch back on what you were just saying, is when you're getting your first army, if we're talking about someone who's starting in 8th, maybe they've played in an older edition, maybe they haven't played at all, and they've read the lore or whatever, and they're excited about it, they want to get into it. You don't know at that point what your playstyle is. You just don't know. You can make a guess. You can be like, oh, you know what, I really like just rushing everything forward and attacking. But actually, you might be more suited to... I really like setting up positions to make, like kill zones and stuff like that. I really like ambushing people. I really like sneaking about and stuff like that. You don't really know until you've played. And once you're invested, you can find out that an army you've just put all of your effort into, that you like the look of, you like the rules for, you've worked out the synergies for, when you get them on the table, you're like, actually, you know what? I really like the way my opponent's army actually plays.
I mean, it is a risk.
Yeah.
And you're never going to remove all of the risk.
No, you can't.
There's a couple of things that you can do that will help remove most of the risk. So, for example, and we've advised this loads before, and I continue to advise it, find yourself a hobby community. Yep. We have a hobby community that you can join via Patreon. It's linked below. If you don't want to pay for one, there is almost guaranteed to be one somewhere near you that you can find on something like Facebook.
Yeah, and 8th has really brought that out as well.
Absolutely,
Tons of clubs.
So find yourself a hobby community and go and hang out with them for a couple of evenings. Don't feel like you have to. And this is really important. This is really key. Don't feel like you have to take an army down to go and hang out at a 40k gaming club. No. You don't.
And most people, there's a lot of people will have a lot of time for people who want to start. And what I've found is most people have got 2 armies or access to another army, and people will give you demo games. They say, why don't you just come down and play with this army, and I'll show you what it's all about. Yep. And there's a lot of that around. So
I mean, in here in the studio, we've got Brom's Ultramarines, there's a Tau army, there's a Necron army, there's a World Eaters Chaos Space Marine army, there's an Eldar army. I can almost comfortably say that you could pretty much play almost any play style of what we've got here in the studio. There's a Night army. And you could have and gaming clubs, you take in a club that maybe has 20, 30, 40 people who probably each person's got 1, 2, 3 armies. Yep. So maybe up to sort of 40, 50, 60 armies between those 20, 30 people. Yep. They will be able to help you out in some way or another. And you can go a couple of weeks in a row and say, one week you go and introduce yourself and Chris, and okay, well, what are you interested in? And people will help you now. People will help you. I mean, they helped you before, but there was a bit more of a stigma attached. People will definitely help you now. And even if you don't have a local gaming community, the games workshops themselves are really good at it. Really good at it.
And the thing is as well, I think people will help you because it's in their best interest to get more people playing.
Of course
they have more opponents. They make friends who have something in common.
So one of the biggest pieces of praise, one of the biggest things people love the most about the Discord that we had before and now the new one, we have a community map on our Discord for example. And this is an example. This doesn't just happen with our community. It happens everywhere. We have a community map. It's a Google Map thing where you can go on digitally and drop your own pin and show you where you are. The amount of people that have joined Discord having not had an opponent, and then they find opponents, and they find frequent opponents. Yeah. And I was chatting to John Phillips, who was here yesterday, who filmed with Deployment Zone Battle Report, who says that he's played, I think he said something like 12 or 13 games this year, all against people from Discord.
Yes.
That's the power of and it's like I say, I know I'm showcasing ours currently. That's the power of a community.
Of a community, yeah.
Absolutely.
And the thing is that you've got that big step already taken out of it. You're not just meeting, it's not a blind date, you're not meeting people at random. you already know that you and the person you're meeting have both got this common interest, which is 40k. So people are much more sort of open to meeting up and coming out and playing with people.
40k is one of those amazing things for that exact reason. If you're in a gaming club, if you're in a gaming community, if you're at an open day, if you're at the Warhammer Fest, wherever you're at, you can stand next to the person stood next to you and you're almost 99% guaranteed to know that he's into 40k as well.
Yep.
Or Games Workshop full stop. And you've instantly got something you can talk to.
You've got something,
You've got common ground. It's not like you're stood in a nightclub or a bar or wherever you are going, I don't know if that person likes cars or you know what he likes because he's at that community with you, and you can engage with people straight away. And people find it very, very easy, I think, in a community that's supposedly full of socially awkward people to engage and chat and talk. And that's another thing you can use when looking at how to build an army. You can use the community's experience.
Yeah, because everyone's got a lot of stuff. So you can ask questions and you'll get a lot of opinions on anything.
Absolutely.
Any aspect of it.
So, I can say to Chris, you've got Iron Warriors. How'd you find them? Is there a problem that you think you have? Like, do they not have enough anti-armor? Do they not have enough this? Do they not have enough that? Or whatever it might be, you know? And people can say to me, you've got World Eaters. Do you not find that when you come up against a shooting army, you get absolutely not? Yes, I do. Quite often, actually, that is a problem. And they might go, I don't think I'm going to enjoy that. And you can go, so that's not for me. Or I can say, well, actually, you can do this, this, and this. And I go, never thought of that.
Unless you're like me and you just hype up Iron Warriors for no reason whatsoever, just because you love them, and you're like, I am within, I am without, and all that kind of stuff, and people are like, wow, these sound amazing. It's just a trick.
And you just want them to feel your pain. You just want to sit there and record giggling when they have a terrible arm.
Get 3,000 points, mate. You won't regret it.
Or just buy these ones. I'm selling them because I love them. Honest. But so that's the first set of steps, I think, to get to a point where we're going, there you go, you have now selected your army.
Yes.
Right? But I don't think we're finished there.
Oh, no. We haven't started to build our army.
Actually build the army.
And that was the topic.
Exactly. But we've selected the army.
Yeah.
This is good. That's 45 minutes. We've just got to the bit the topic's about.
Brilliant. But no, we did need to get that first bit in there. To get we've got to go through the logical steps because now we're at the point of building.
So building the army is a 3-part step for me. And everybody out there is different. I'm just telling you it's me because it's my podcast. But for me, it's a 3-part step. So you've got 3 different, in my opinion, you've got 3 different sort of aspects to think about when building an army. So normally for me, when I've selected the army to build, it's because I like a certain model or models.
Okay.
So it's very important to me when I like those models that they exist within the army. So, for example, recently we did a review of the new Iron Hand supplement, and that comes with the new Iron Father or Forge Father or whatever he's called.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's called.
Feros, whatever his name is.
Yeah. That model, I've never had any interest in Iron Hands ever.
Yep.
That model's glorious.
Yeah. So it's got the platform. It's got the high-heeled shoes.
Yeah.
And the
fabulous.
cuddly toy claw.
It's absolutely
and
fabulous.
The little video CCTV camera on his shoulder. Yeah. And Liam was like, that is my idea of a model.
That's my idea of heaven.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, Iron Father Savile.
No, I do like Iron Fathers.
He's a glorious model.
He's a great model.
And so if I had then done the steps we've just talked about, where I've read the lore and I've read the codex and read the rules and gone, actually, I really like how this is coming together. Because that model drew me in, when I then start my army list, first model or first unit on my
be in there,
it's going to be him.
Yeah.
And people can do that for other reasons. So people can do that with Redemptor Dreads. People can do that with Hemlock Wraith Fighters or Wraith Guard or whatever it might be. People could do that with Mauler Fiends or whatever. So it might be that you like Iron Warriors because you like Demon Engines, for argument's sake.
Oh, yeah.
So you like Helldrakes and Mauler Fiends. So make sure that list has got at least 1 or 2 or 3 of those types of models in there.
Yeah.
Because then that's the whole reason. That's the first thing that pulled you in.
Yeah.
Was that look and that aesthetic.
And that could be a character as well. Because you might have a particular character that you want to build your army around.
It might be that you absolutely love Gulliman or you love, what's his right-hand man?
We don't talk about him. Calgar.
Yeah, it might be Calgar. Yeah. It might be that you like Calgar's story and you love the story of Calgar and how he's got to where he is now. So make sure he's on your sheet.
Someone's got to love him.
Yeah, someone's got to.
Yeah,
problem. It might be that it's that new. So one of the most recent models they've released is that new Phobos librarian.
Yeah,
I love that model.
Yeah, that is awesome. Yeah,
I think he's amazingly cool. So anyway, and it could be a unit. It might be that you like the suppressors with the backpacks and the big autocannons.
Yeah,
that's fine. It might be that you like obliterators. So make sure that unit's on your list because it's really important. That's what pulled you in. That's what drew you in. You would have at that point, if you followed our long process that we put together here, you would have read the lore and the narrative. So you want to probably put something together that fits your story as well.
Yep.
So when you're building the rest of your list around these units that you've already selected, you need to make sure that it fits your story.
Yep.
So you're an Iron Warriors player, and I'm referring to this because Chris has sat with me.
Yeah.
So keep on the demon engines and all that kind of stuff because it fits. And the other thing is that will normally work together nicely as well.
Well, this is why I'm trying to run 3 Vindicators at the moment, because they're Iron Warriors, and I want to have that big, horrible, crushing advance kind of look to it. So I want to try and build my list with those in it specifically, even though they're not the best choice maybe. It's a key part of my narrative, and as I've started writing now, my Warsmith is part of his narrative as he goes out capturing slaves all the time. So I need to put some cultists back in, whereas before I was really into having squads of Chaos Space Marines. I'm like, well, actually my narrative is now calling for, I want him to stand around with all these slaves that I've built, you know.
And that's developed that way, right? And then so you've got Mikey P on the channel, who has his Hive Fleet Shai-Hulud, which is his Tyranids. And he basically selected the Tyranids because he liked the giant Morlock and Trigon type models. And Shai-Hulud comes from something to do with worms. June. He's told me about it,
They're the big sandworms in June.
Which is
why he's into them, because they're very similar to how Trigon works.
But what he did is he added things like termagants and stuff, because they work with his narrative of coming up through these holes that the Trigons create and stuff, which is really, really cool. So there you go. So you're now selecting units that are based on your narrative.
Yes.
That's step 2. Now, step 3, which is once you've done 1 and 2, is a little bit more difficult, but it's not impossible, is then to then make sure that when you really flesh out the rest of your army to get to whatever you're doing, 1500, 1750, 2000, is to make sure that those units you've already selected, you tie them together with synergies.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And it might be at that point that you add a unit in, not that you think's horrendous, but you go, I wouldn't normally choose it, but actually I've picked this particular model, and I've picked that particular model, and I've picked that particular model, and this one brings all those 3 models together.
The Warpsmith does that for me. I don't like the fail cast Warpsmith model, but I need it because I'm running so many vehicles. I do need that in there to kind of give them a boost and help out with them. So that's kind of a pick that's less based on the aesthetics and more based on its function.
Absolutely. And that's one of those things where you're taking a hit for the greater good. Right.
But it's only 60 points. You know, I've accepted that as it's only 60 points I'm using up there. I wouldn't want to have it
still kind of fits the aesthetic. It still fits the narrative. So it ticks boxes. It's just not your first choice.
Exactly.
But what it does do is it increases the efficiency of the stuff that is your first choice.
Yes.
And that's really important. There's a lot of people out there that will tell you narrative, and we are a narrative channel.
Yes.
We prefer narrative stuff. So I absolutely encourage it. But again, like I said to you earlier, if it doesn't perform on the table, you're going to lose love and interest. And if you're getting beaten by every man Jack and his army, you're going to start to get it's going to get tedious getting beaten all the time, and you start to lose the love for that particular army.
And you're not building a story at that point, because no one wants a story of only loss.
No, exactly. And we like to use battles to tell the stories of our characters and our heroes. When we did the Champion of Chaos campaign that's going live soon, he said, pick your Chaos Lord. I've got a Chaos Lord that I use for Eternal Slaughter. And I had to come up with a name for him, which I asked the community, and they gave me a good name. So I had his name. And at the start of that campaign, he has a couple of pieces of narrative that exist. So at one point, he got charged by a Carnifex and killed it in Overwatch with a Combi Melter.
Nice.
That's cool. The same game, he then got charged by a Carnifex, interrupted and uppercutted him with the Black Mace and killed it before. So he was Slayer of Carnifex. He was a Beast Slayer, so he had the title Beast Slayer, right? Now we've done the Champion of Chaos campaign. He's got more titles.
Okay, brilliant.
The guy, because of the games, the guy's a hero.
That's what I play. That is almost exactly what I love. That side of it, I love having a character to center on.
It's almost an RPG.
Yes,
kind of.
Yeah, and your other units are great and everything, but you can never have that same connection to like 10 cultists or a squad of 5, whatever. They can kind of do stuff, but having your warlord or your named characters do stuff is really satisfying.
And sometimes it's not just warlords and named characters. I think that's more satisfying for me because they are an individual. This is, I don't like to praise him too much because I know he watches. This is something Winters does really, really well. He has a model in his Scutari, I think, that has I don't even know what the weapon is, but he was the one that took a final wound off of a Titan.
Yes, I remember this. Yeah.
So he's GS01 or something like that.
This one tiny little dude. Yeah.
And he's actually converted. So he's a normal rank and file troop.
Yeah.
Who he is converted. He's still a rank and file troop, but he's converted. He's had a backpack or something.
Yeah.
I can't remember what he's done. He's added some extra stuff to him to make him look more impressive as a model. He still runs him as a rank and file troop, but he has a story. That model's got a story
because you can never bank on that happening. That's just a pure dice have told the story.
Just happens,
and that's really just happened out of nowhere. And I'm well up for that as well.
Yeah, that stuff. So, but like I'm saying, the narrative has to fit. The narrative has to work with what you've put together on the table. But you also have to make sure, like I say, the army works.
Yeah.
Because if the army doesn't work, when you play it, you're not going to enjoy it necessarily so much. You've got less of a chance of doing well. You won't have these epic moments.
Yes.
And it's going to be, no one remembers a warlord in history who lost every fight.
No.
They just don't.
No.
Unless it was particularly spectacular.
It's a footnote of a joke. Yeah.
Yeah. So the heroes that are celebrated throughout history and throughout the 40k universe are those heroes who do epic deeds at epic moments. And if your army isn't constructed in such a way, I understand that what it sounds like is I'm pushing people a little bit towards be a bit more competitive, and I am.
Yes.
I'm not saying go hard cheese line. I'm not saying that.
No, there does have to be a balance. And I was trying to touch on this before when we were talking about what makes a narrative army. But there has to be a balance for the good of everybody playing. More fun for your opponent if it's competitive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some people don't like kicking their opponent's ass across the table.
Okay.
Because it gets awkward.
I'll go ballsy.
Yeah.
I would suggest that 99% of the community don't like auto-winning games.
No. Because you're there to play a game. It's like, okay, I've wiped that out. Your opponent isn't into it anymore. They're waiting to concede or quit. They're just waiting for it to be over because they're not having any fun at all. Then you don't have any fun anymore unless your goal in life is to humiliate someone.
Unless you're trying to create a story for the worst warlord ever.
Yeah. But this does remind me, actually, I did kill Eldrad with a gun drone before, and I should have given that drone a proper title.
So now you don't know who he is.
I don't know who he is.
If you pulled out your box of
I should have done that, yeah.
You have no idea who he is now.
I'm so sorry, Gun Drone 15 Alpha J9. I'm sorry. But he killed Eldrad.
I'm sure he was watching as well.
Savage. Yeah, he's out there watching now.
Quipster from Discord and the channel does this thing where he has, and it's much easier to do it with Custodians, to be fair. Yeah. But he has a spreadsheet and he has a picture of every model.
Yes.
Okay. And every model's got a custom resin nameplate because he's named them all. And underneath the picture of the model and the nameplate, he lists all their deeds.
It's deeds, yeah.
That's amazing.
I love that idea.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's really difficult to do that if you've got 120 orc boys.
Yeah,
but he's done it with Custodians, and it looks cool.
I think that's awesome.
It's amazing to follow that story, and you might choose to do something similar. Even if you've got orcs, you might not do it with 120 orc boys. You might choose to do it with your war boss, your weird boy, and your squad of 10 orc knobs, perhaps, and only track those instead of tracking
actually,
everybody.
I encourage more people to try this. I might even try this because I think it's really going to build up more character with your army.
But like I say, if you're running a horde army, you can pick out your big characters and your big hitters, and you can do it for that. And if a random orc boy happens to slay Eldrad like your drone did, you could just add that one in. You don't have to add in every orc boy. Take a picture of that one orc boy and add him in. And even if you mark the bottom of the base so you know which one it is, what no one else can see, and he's then got a story that you're starting to build. And perhaps you then follow his progress as he becomes an orc knob and he grows bigger and stronger because orcs grow bigger and stronger the more that, that kind of stuff.
And then you can actually replace their model down the line.
Yeah.
And you've got this whole backstory that you've just organically created.
Okay, so what's the difference between a veteran in a Marine book and a normal Marine for most of the chapters?
What do you mean in terms of the lore, or
in terms of how they look?
They've just got more bits on them, haven't they?
And a different coloured helmet. Yeah. So exactly that. So more decoration and a different coloured helmet. So you have a, let's say a Primaris Marine, or let's go back to a tactical Marine, for Christ's sake. You have a tactical Marine, and he does something epic. Yeah. There's no reason why he can't become the squad sergeant, because he's done something epic.
Haven't they got those little...
that's going to really...
Sorry, guys. I'll start again. Haven't they got those little plates... that they attach? I'm not. I don't play pro much.
Probably, yeah. But so and then when he gets to lieutenant, maybe he gets that white stripe and the red bit on his helmet that they rock for the Ultramarines. And there's no reason why, if you wanted to do that, you couldn't basically run it as RPGs, and your character could end up being.
You level it up down
even
the
your
line.
warlord, should the need arise.
Yeah.
Let's say one game your captain dies, because you can kit bash that way. I mean, you don't have to, and sometimes it can be quite difficult, and some people are reluctant to pull things off and glue things on the model that's finished and painted, but you can do it.
Yeah.
And it is easier than the old days of metal models as well.
It was easier before when you could just get those little purity seals. You could just start lining the purity seals up on your...
before you've got a model that just looks like Cousin It.
Just absolutely covered in it, yeah.
Seals flapping everywhere.
That'd be awesome, mate. I'll be up for that. Actually.
Yeah. So, and that's from start to finish, that's basically the golden rules for me. I know it's quite a lengthy process we've gone through for how to select an army all the way through to them building that.
Yeah.
Then there's some extra little steps that I would suggest. A lot of people are very good painters. A lot of people aren't so good painters. Some of us sit in the middle. When you then put together a scheme, it makes sense if you put together something, and this is very hypocritical of me, it makes sense if you put together something that's relatively easy for you to do and at your skill level, but that still you think looks good.
Yeah.
Because if you make something insanely complex, and you go, I've done a model, it took me 5 days to do one model, and I've got a horde army here,
you'll never finish it.
You won't, no matter how much you love everything else we've just spoke about. So I would honestly suggest that you pick something that's easy to do.
Don't pick Harlequins.
Much better. Well, not necessarily. Even Harlequins now, if you don't care about diamonds, Harlequins now with contrast.
That's true. You can make them very put the motley on them, couldn't you? All kinds of colours. And yeah, that's true.
Harlequins now with contrast, you can make some really nice look at, because contrast is really good for that small detail with lots of bumps and lumps and stuff. Not quite so good for big armour panels. So Harlequins aren't horrendous, but that will bring me on to another point later in the chat anyway. So make sure you pick a scheme that is something you can do, that you, one, think looks good, two, won't take you forever. And then you've got a lot more chance of finishing an army as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Because the other thing is with building an army, if you don't or you can't get to a stage where you finish your army and you have a fully painted force, it's easier, I think, to get bored of that army, even with all the previous boxes ticked.
Yep.
And it doesn't.
You just can't finish it.
You don't even have to paint it yourself. There's plenty of commission painters out there now. So if you're not someone who likes painting, you can check out people like Blazing Brush or Den of Imagination or Mohawk Minis or anyone like that. And they are commission painters who do a very good job, and they have multiple tiers that you can pay different levels for. So you don't have to do it yourself. But if you're going to be invested in this army, there's never a prouder moment when you stand there with your 2,000 points of whatever, and it's all painted.
Oh yes,
and it's on the table all painted.
Yeah. And you get that moment when you're playing with them for the first time against someone else who's got a 2,000 point fully painted army, and you just look at the whole battlefield and you're like, wow, this was well worth it.
John was saying this yesterday. He was saying that he feels like he's in a very lucky position, that because of the people that he plays in Discord, he's had 1 or 2 games so far this year where he hasn't played someone who's fully painted.
Yep.
So he always normally plays fully painted versus fully painted on a table full of nice terrain.
Yeah, that's the way to experience.
That's how you enjoy the immersion of 40k.
Absolutely, yeah.
There is there's a guy in the chat, John Battle, he's a patron of ours, an absolute legend, who says, hate painting and I don't have the money. I get that, and Games Workshop get that, and that's why contrast exists. I'm not saying it's the answer for you and you're wrong, because that still might not be the answer. You still might hate it, but contrast has made things better for people who aren't great at painting. It's so easy with contrast to get something tabletop ready and fully painted. It might not be painted to a standard that you necessarily want, but it will be better than being clear, I think, anyway. So there's options out there. But if you make sure you pick a scheme that you can finish painting, then you're going to be happier. And some people, if you're someone who does get bored painting, then also think about this at army selection. I'm not really sure I'm fussed about painting. Don't pick an orc horde.
Goodness me.
So that's some tips and some hints, I think, to get to a stage from I think I want to play to I've selected an army all the way to my army's ready.
The kind of stuff that we're talking about here is still very much from our perspective as more narrative leaning players, because there's going to be a whole podcast topic about people who want to get straight into competitive play, or people that are more focused on being an ITC player from the get-go, it's going to be a completely different process.
And you absolutely can do that.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing wrong with and it is a completely different process.
Yeah.
I would suggest that a lot of that early stuff we were talking about being invested in the way the models look in the lore, who cares if you're going competitive?
Yeah.
If you are going to play competitive and you want to compete at high-level events, whether that be the LGT, the LVO, or even just your FLGS tournaments and stuff, you don't need narrative crap. You don't need to be invested in the army, really. I know people that will run multiples of the same model.
Yeah.
So some of us will look at, we'll look at a Dark Apostle for Chaos, okay, which has got a set fixed model.
Yeah.
I wouldn't ever run 2 of the same model in an army because I don't think it looks nice, personally. And I have a massive problem with running 2 of the same. Yeah. So I own 4 Obliterators of the new ones, 2 of each. Yeah. And I don't know if I could field 2 of the same. Yeah. If I did it, they'd have to be 2 separate squads. Yeah. Because I wouldn't want them near each other. Yeah. So that's me. Yeah. If you're a competitive player, you don't tend to care about that.
No.
You wouldn't give a flying...
And I think it's important to say as well, at this point, that there's no bashing here on ITC players or
not at all.
Competitive players at all. And I understand, to them, it's like, well... The hobby to them might be get an army commission painted. Doesn't matter what the units are like. They're as important as maybe the pawns, the pieces of a chessboard. Because you're there to play a game competitively, and you just need the bits that you need for it to play that. I'm sure that's how some people approach it. But as a narrative channel, we've got no choice but to really come from our perspective on this.
It works on a multitude of levels as well, actually. So I bet you, when you're putting together a model... do you think when you're building a model for your Iron Warriors or your town, do you think, right, that looks cool and that banner looks amazing and I like that aerial and I like that giant sword up above his head and you like all that stuff, right? Yeah. And competitive players will go, if I put that on, they'll be able to see it over a wall. Yeah. It's a thing. Yeah. And it is a thing.
I spent so much time with my Riptides trying to come up with really cool poses for them. Yeah, they're probably not.
And you'll see a lot of narrative players will have heroes on bases that are that big, stood massive, and
standing on a rock.
Whoa,
waving.
I'd actually rather cut him off at the knees and glue him to the base. So, and that's the thing. And there is nothing wrong with playing that way.
No.
There is absolutely nothing wrong with playing that way. I've got no problems with that at all. It's not our 40k personally. No. And you can skip a lot of that early stuff we're talking about if you want to play competitive. The things that you add in instead is you can spend a lot of time on things like online Facebook groups and online forums. There's places like Daka. You can look at Best Coast Pairings app. The Best Coast Pairings app will show you lists and who's won what tournaments.
Oh, there's net lists everywhere. There's a lot of resources.
There's a website that I think even Quipster told me about. Where you can log onto the website and it gives you statistics. It might actually be called 40kstats.com, I think.
It sounds right. Yeah.
I should have just gone with it, shouldn't I? No one would have ever questioned. But I think it's called 40kstats.com, and you can look into all the statistics for Eldar and all the statistics for things like Alatok and stuff like that. And you can do that instead of bothering with narrative and stuff like that. Yeah. So that's an option if you want to go competitive. It's just that's not what we're focusing on. So that's why we haven't spent 45 minutes talking about how to get to that point.
We should go back to the concept of a competitive army within building a list for a narrative army, though, because there is something really important to look at with that. The fact we've already discussed it to the point where it's like no one wants to have a narrative army, build a list for a narrative army that is always losing.
No.
So you do have to. You have to create your own kind of guidelines as to how competitive you are willing to go.
Yes.
How much you want to balance your competitiveness and how effective your army is against how much you love the lore and how much you want to adhere to your own lore in that sense. And that's the biggest challenge I think that us narrative players face, because we're always being judged by our peers, as it were, as to how much we've balanced.
Cheesed it.
Yeah.
So there's a way you can do this. This is an interesting point, actually. So there's a way you can do this. If you're already involved in one of these communities like ours, it's significantly easier. If you're not, you can still do it via things like Facebook pages and forums.
Yep.
But I think I don't know if everyone, but most 40k players I know do this, and it's essentially theory hammering. And what you do is you without buying models, you write a list, and you'll come up with So let's say 1750 point list. You'll come up with a 1750 point list, and I've got my captain and my lieutenant and my librarian, and I've got my intercessors, and I've got a dreadnought, etc. Right? And I've got my list. Yep. I've built this list. I look at it and I go, yeah, I'm happy with that. It's got models in it that I like. It tells a story. It's narrative, and I think it's strong. think it's strong. You don't know it's strong at that point, especially if you're a newish player. So what you can do at that point, and I encourage people to do this, but be careful. And I genuinely mean this when I say be careful. Depending on what you want, depends on where you then should post this list for feedback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you want to be competitive, don't necessarily worry about being so careful.
Yeah.
Post it anywhere and be prepared for what might come back. Because no one really wants to post their list on a website, a forum, or whatever, and get told, that's crap, you've done it all wrong, this is how you should run it. And you look at the list that they've given you and go, that's nothing like my original list. Yeah. In fact, this particular unit that I wanted to have in my list is nowhere on this one at all.
And you'll be told that unit is garbage unplayable as well.
Yeah.
And that's a big problem. And it's only because people are very passionate.
Which is fine if you want to play ITC competitive. That's fine.
But that is where a lot of... It does appear like in a lot of communities, unless you join a narrative community, you're always going to be judged against an ITC standard, so you do have to be really careful of that. And even when it comes down to the tactics, 1d4 Chan tactics or whatever it is, things like that, you're going to get different opinions of people, and you're going to be told that certain things are really good and certain things are garbage. And also don't listen to the first person necessarily. No, because the first person might pop up and tell you that unit's crap, don't ever use it, because he's had that experience and taken it to one game, rolled poorly.
And the next 5 people might go, actually, that unit's quite good. Yeah. That unit's not that bad.
And also, we were talking about the synergy earlier. It might be that unit's really great in your army, but not in their army.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
So it's going to be very difficult for the new player to actually... You have to use your own...
It's not so bad if you're building a narrative list. Yeah. It's not so much of a problem because people understand that you're happy that your unit isn't necessarily as powerful as another unit because you're going narrative. Yes. However, you should always add the caveat that this is a narrative army based on this story. You don't have to give them the full story necessarily. Yeah. But that's when I then am saying be careful where you post it. Yeah. Don't post it to one of those competitive forums because they will tear it apart and tell you your list is rubbish.
Or they'll say... If you're playing narrative, why do you care?
which is kind of...
Yeah, which is legit.
And let's be fair, you care because you don't want... No one plays this game to lose. No. No one plays this game to go, I don't care at all if I win. No. Now, we all want to win to a degree. Yeah. And it's about where you have that balance as to what you're prepared to do in order to win. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
And what units you're prepared to spam and how, what type, even down to what type of player you're prepared to be when stood at the table opposite someone. Yeah. And that can make a difference. Some people are prepared to be unpleasant individuals when at a table, at an event, at the top table in a final. Some people are. It's just a fact. And most people that are like that are literally just there to win. Yeah. Okay. So if you're looking at a narrative list, that's not the sort of people you want to be critiquing your list. No. That's the thing. No. You don't, and you want someone who understands the narrative, who is a similar thinking person. So if you're in a community and you have been lurking in there for a little while and you realize that that's the sort of community that's the same sort of people as you, you're pretty safe anyway. Yeah. Right. But get feedback on a list. Again, this isn't Liam's top tips to save money, but it could save you a bucket ton of money. Yeah. You don't want to go buying 3 Forge Fiends and fit them with all plasma just to find out that actually they're a bit tonk and you should have maybe built them as Mauler Fiends.
Yeah, don't buy 3 Predators.
Yeah, for kill shot.
No, just don't buy 3 Predators. That's the...
Brom bought his 3rd Predator for kill shot.
Yeah, they got rid of it.
And then took it out the codex.
Sorry, Brom.
But that, I mean, to be fair to Brom, that's nothing that any of us could have foresawn. So, no. Even if you got feedback and he said, do you think I should get a 3rd Predator for kill shot if you think we'll use it? Yeah, go for it. Yeah. Kill shot's quite good.
Kill shot's actually really effective.
Was.
Chaos has still got it.
But it's a thing, right? So that's something that's going to happen. Yeah. Every now and again. Hopefully it won't be that common. I was massively surprised I took it out of the book because it wasn't like it was being spammed everywhere. But yeah, they did, and it was hilarious. Thank you, Games Workshop. That was immense entertainment on my part. Was Brom had a Predator on his desk, like, I'm going to do this now.
Yeah. Just leave it there. Yeah.
Stick it in the bin.
I've decided I don't like Predators. But that's for another day. That's another discussion for another day.
Yeah.
Sorry, Predator fans.
They're the tank, not the movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's loads of stuff there about how to build a list, I think.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to go back to, which you kind of mentioned earlier, when we're talking about rule of cool.
Yes.
It can be dangerous.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why can it be dangerous, Liam?
You touched on one of the armies that I think definitely hits that. Harlequins, for example.
Yep.
Okay. So Harlequins, immensely cool models, I think.
Yeah.
They were released a few years ago. Some of the coolest plastic models that
really
the
good.
Aldari races have, or the Asiani races have, what you want to call them.
Yep.
I love Harlequins, okay? That's rule of cool, tick for me straight away. I went and read the narrative. The narrative for Harlequins, rule of cool, tick.
Yep.
I loved it. I genuinely loved it.
Yeah, I love it too.
I then built an army of them.
Yep.
And so I put together a list, like building an army, put together a list, and I then went and bought that list in a Wanna. This is a while ago now. This is before I even had this channel.
Okay.
This is a while ago. I built the army in a Wanna.
They're fairly... I don't want to get too deep into it, but Harlequins are fairly pushed into one direction for list building, aren't they? You
are
Star
limited,
Weavers and troops. You put troops in the Star Weavers, and then you can kind of blend in.
You are limited.
What you want.
It's not so bad. There's sort of maybe two ways to run them. You run them as immense combat monsters, or you run Soaring Spite, I think it is, and stick everyone with fusion pistols and transports.
Yeah, do drive-by clown car.
I think this was in 7th. I think this was even before the new Harlequin book.
Okay.
But this is an example of how rule of cool can be. If you don't,
it can lead you into a trap.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah,
that's exactly the way to put it. That's spot on. So models look really cool. I love the narrative, and I do still love the Harlequin narrative to this day.
Yeah, I love them.
I bought the army in a One and started to build it, and it's hard. Some of them are fiddly and annoying, and
they're very small.
And some of the bits break really easily, and that pisses me off when you spend a lot of money on models that just break in your hand. You go, what the?
Yeah.
So that was the first stage of me being annoyed. Okay.
And the kits don't have the full loadout either, which is annoying.
That's annoying. That's like buying a new box of Chaos. This is another thing. Make sure you're aware of this, people, when you're building lists.
Yeah.
When you're going, I'm going to add 5 Chaos Space Marine Terminators to my list.
Yeah, because it's really cheap.
And I want them all to have combi bolters and chain axes or whatever they've got in the codex as their standard loadout because they're cheap and they're cool.
Yeah.
And then you get the box and realize you've got 1 chain axe in the whole box.
And chain axes are really not that easy to convert. They're not that easy. Some people say they are, but you still have to mutilate a chainsaw.
It's one of these very rare occasions where I will in fact say, screw you, Games Workshop.
Yeah. I will say it too. Screw you, Games Workshop. Fix your Chaos Terminator kit. Give me my chain axes.
It's not just Chaos Terminators.
No, there are others.
When the new Havoc box dropped and everyone went, I want that chain cannon. I want that Reaper chain cannon. The Reaper chain cannon's amazing. How many are in the box, Chris?
That was rude. 1 in the box.
1!
2 everything else, which is... We're moving somewhere. But 1
Reaper chain cannon.
What are you doing, son?
That was a dick move.
That was a dick move. It's like, look how cool this thing is, and you read it and you're like, oh my god, this is cool.
And Harlequins are the same.
Yeah.
You want a troop of 6 Harlequins, all with Harlequins kisses, and you buy 1 box. No. You can't do that.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't so bad for me because I did buy the whole army in one go, but a lot of people can't do that.
No.
I can't afford to do that. So be aware of that as well as a thing.
Yeah.
A lot of them, you can go onto the pages on the Games Workshop website, scroll through the images, and it will show you what's in the box, which is really helpful.
Yeah.
So
and also, particularly with Harlequins, there's some really good guides now for converting the other bits into stuff. So people found ways around that. But chain axes, I'm not going to keep going on about it. I'm going to get really upset. Upset.
The next half hour of this live podcast is Chris ranting about chain axes.
Because now I've got to go, 1 power sword, 1 power axe. What's next? Oh, power fist. Yeah. No. Stop it.
I have 3. I think I have 3 power fists, a chain fist, and a power axe in my 5 Terminators.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. I wanted the chain axes, but I was like, I'm not going to put 1 chain axe, 2 power fists, 1 chain fist.
Yeah,
so I just built all power fists basically.
Yeah.
Anyway, by the by, so Harlequins. So that was an annoying thing. Someone's already said, actually, you get 6 kisses in the Harlequin box. Okay, it was a bad example. You only get 1 or 2 fusion pistols then. All right.
Yeah.
But still. My point remains, you cannot, in the codex, you can load up a Harlequin. You can load up every single Harlequin with a fusion pistol and a kiss if you want.
Yeah.
And in the box, you can't do that. It's impossible.
Yeah.
So that annoyed me to start with. I was already a bit annoyed. And I don't like being annoyed, because being annoyed annoys me.
Yeah, I don't like being annoyed.
It's a vicious circle.
Yeah.
So that was a problem. But then I managed, because I was lucky that I could buy the army in bulk, I could get around it a bit, and I had to tweak my list ever so slightly. It wasn't a massive drama. And then it come to painting the damn things.
Yeah.
Now, this was before the days of me having a painting studio.
Yep.
This was before the days of me being able to afford commission painters. So I had to do it myself.
Yeah.
And I don't suck at painting, but I'm very impatient.
Yeah.
Have you ever painted a Harlequin?
I have no idea how to paint.
The biggest mistake I had was when reading the fluff, etc., and picking my my Harlequin mask. The one I picked, I loved the mask. I can't remember the name of it. Had diamonds.
Yep.
And you go on YouTube, right, and you watch a video about how to paint diamonds, and they go, you just do black lines and then black lines and then fill them in.
Yeah,
it's really easy. I must have painted a leg
Yeah.
about 27 times. I even got to the point where I bought a really fine point permanent marker off of Amazon just so I could draw the lines
It's not
on.
real.
It doesn't work.
It's not real, because I watched Duncan speed painting Iron Warriors, and he goes, to do the hazard stripe, you just start with a little black line, and he draws like a perfect straight line with the brush. I'm like, that's CGI, mate.
Again,
it's not real.
You won't hear me say this very often, but screw you, Duncan.
Screw you, Duncan. You're selling us these dreams, and then we go there and we just like, hey!
Yeah, he does this thing so often, doesn't he, on his painting tutorials. You go, so just use the side of your brush and you do this to highlight it, and it's this perfect line. And I go,
and then he goes, it shows the next step, and it's like a completely different model with highlights, and it's like,
he does that as well. I'm sure he does that. I'm sure he's got like 15 models that are painted by the heavy metal team.
Exactly.
Bit of paint. Someone cut the camera. I'm sure he does that. I won't say that very often because I love Duncan. To be fair,
I love Duncan.
I've got a model painted by him over there as well. Oh, cool. That and so rule of cool. Was then destroyed it for me.
It was outside your actual capabilities as a hobby.
So I then got the model that, and I decided I couldn't do diamonds. It wasn't 27. I exaggerated a little bit. I think I tried it maybe 5 or 6 times. And I am impatient. And I went, okay, I don't like that. So then I repainted it, and Mr. Martin Waller taught me how to blend from color to color. And I started to do that, and it looked amazing. I was really pleased with the blend, but it took me forever. I don't know if you've ever followed a Waller method. They take forever anyway because it's a Waller method. It took me forever. And I'm there with this army of 20, 30 Harlequin players and bikes. I'm thinking, I can't...
This is unrealistic, right?
I can't be bothered at this stage. I didn't own an airbrush back then either. And I'm like, I can't... There's no... And at that point, still loving the narrative, still loving the models, I then fell out of love with the army. I don't want this army anymore.
Too much pressure, right? As well.
Yeah.
There's just too much to it at that point.
Yeah, it didn't help that I know people like Gwyn as well. He's painted Harlequins with diamonds that are slightly smaller than a flea's pubes in diameter. And you go, how have you done that with a brush?
It's obvious they've had to sell something to some kind of demon. It's not. No one can actually do that stuff.
Yeah. And then I sold the whole Harlequin army that went to a guy called CJ who's in the Netherlands.
Was that a rage sale then?
It was a rage sale,
I hate you, Harlequins!
Yeah, it was an absolute rage sale. I just couldn't do it. And I haven't gone back to them. That horrible feeling. Show me where the Harlequin touched you. I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. So that's the thing. And that's something to be aware of. And that's a genuine, a genuine warning for people as well. Is rule of cool is definitely how I would go when I'm starting to look at an army. But to some extent, be aware of the army's limitations and your limitations. And some people out there, like your Darrens and your Wallers, they don't have that painting limitation.
No.
So that army's straight back on the table for them.
Exactly, yeah.
But some people like me, I will never, ever be able to paint I will go on record saying I'll never, ever be able to paint Harlequin diamonds the way that I want them to look.
Yeah. And there's other army, like Thousand Suns, you're going to spend... You either have to know that you're going to commit to a lot of very, very... lengthy painting process to make them look as cool as you might want them to look, or you're going to have to accept that they can't look as cool as they should.
That's another screw you Duncan moment. Thousand Suns.
Yeah.
Just spray them gold, fill in the blue.
Just block in this slither.
Yeah. And then once you've blocked in that slither of blue with Thousand Suns blue, then grab some Araman blue and just edge highlight it inside the gold. What?
I watched that video several times and I thought, you know what? This is all a lie. Duncan can't even paint. He's not even there. I don't even know what's going on.
I think he can.
I don't know. I don't think he's a real person. I think he's one of those digital presenters
Duncan. That's the revelation of how to build your army. Duncan can't paint.
Duncan CGI, and actually it's all CGI. There's no real painting going on there.
Unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable. I mean, I have thought about going back to them because of things like contrast now, and you can do sort of wet blending techniques with contrast that are quite quick. Yeah. I'm not saying I would just use solid contrast because I would want it to look a little bit of a higher standard than that personally, with a bit of extra edging and stuff.
Yeah.
But there is definitely some extra tools in the box nowadays to make look better. Yeah. The other thing I have with Harlequins now that I didn't have before is a lot more experience. Yeah. And I have a lot more tips and tricks that have been taught to me by people like mine who have said, this is how you do this, this is how you do this is a little cheat for doing this is how you do this. And that has definitely helped me. So there's things I can do now that I couldn't do before. So just because at the first stage you look at that army and you go, this isn't an army for me because it might be too complex to paint, don't necessarily put it in the locker forever. You could do your first army that might then be Space Marines because you're picking something easy.
Yeah.
Develop your skills, and later down the line when you pick your second, third, fourth army, and most people don't stick to one force.
Yeah.
When you pick your second, third, fourth army, you then might be able to revisit it and go, I now think I've got the skills to tackle this.
Yeah. And then there's the excitement of seeing that you've reached that point.
The other thing is if you've already got one or two armies by that point, then you're not waiting to finish that to play.
No. Yeah,
which
and
is also
that's
a key.
that's actually a big thing that we should have mentioned earlier. Is that
it is actually.
Yeah, we should have mentioned that because you're waiting to play at that point as well. And depending on what you're doing or what you intend to do, depends on whether you need to get that painted ASAP or not.
So this is something I used to do. And I was someone who never used to sub-assembly build when I would paint.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't going to ever enter Golden Demon.
Yep.
And I wasn't ever going to try for a best painted army at a competition. So I never sub-assembled. I fully built the army.
Yep.
And the reason why I fully built the army was because it meant I could get it straight at the tabletop.
Yeah, start playing grey plastic.
And I could start playing grey plastic against whoever I was playing. It helped if the person I was playing was fully painted.
Yeah.
And the reason why it helped because that would then I would play it and I would enjoy the game. And because I'm playing it, I'm going, okay, I am now motivated because I'm enjoying this army.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying playing with this army. And I want to play it more often. But I'm playing against someone who's already fully painted or mostly painted. And I feel a bit shitty that I'm bringing grey plastic to the table. Yeah. And that would motivate me to do more painting.
Yeah.
It changed a little bit with the launch of the channel. In fact, it changed when I started filming on Visicast because you can't do that on YouTube. No. Well, you can, and no one will watch it.
Yeah,
so you can't do
really
that
can't.
on YouTube.
Don't do it.
You have to really make sure you have painted armies.
Yes.
So that did change ever so slightly, but I have now got a multitude of armies I can play with whilst I'm messing around.
Yeah, you can really take your time on whatever you want to do next.
But that's the thing, right? That's the thing that can help motivating you is having something you've already got to play with. Whether you lend an army, whether you do what I've just said and fully build it, and you will find if you've got friends in the hobby that they'll let you play unpainted. No one's going to be that fussy about it. Just because what you see sometimes on YouTube with two glorious looking armies fully painted on a table that's fully decked out with rocks and stones and craters and supply crates and stuff like that. Yours doesn't have to look like that from the off.
No.
I think sometimes, as much as I love channels like ours, like Winters, like Tabletop Tactics, like Hellstorm, that have fully painted armies on fully painted and fully resin pre-painted terrain, it sets a high standard that can be unachievable really early on. It doesn't need
to be your 40k. If all you've got is a living room floor and a few stacks of books, you can still play 40k and really enjoy it.
And then you can build up to what we have, for example, over time.
Yeah.
It takes time.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think we've done that to death.
Yeah.
That was really good.
Yeah.
Oh, we covered lots of points there.
We covered lots of points. We're like professional point makers.
Yeah. Yeah. Well done there, mate. You've just nailed that. We're professional point makers.
That's a new thing, yeah.
I mean, it's an interesting topic, though, because what we will probably find on YouTube is that a lot of people will say, no, that's not how I build an army.
No, and that's actually what's so awesome about this. I think there's a topic for another day is how how Warhammer becomes like a lifestyle.
A lifestyle?
Yeah, because people seem to get into it, and it's like a major part of their, the hobby is a major part of what you do. You talk to hobby people. You spend your free. You have to put a lot of time into it. There's no two ways about it.
You're talking to the wrong person.
Yeah. He puts a few hours into it here and
there.
Yeah.
When I got the time,
it's a lot for a lot of people. I feel like it borders on being a lifestyle, right? So in anything that broad, with that much time being taken up of your free time, there's going to be loads of opinions. It's going to be regional even.
Yeah.
It's going to be who you play with down your local club. It's going to be your local meta. They're all going to drive how you build things and how you think about things. We can only bring you our perspective and our narrative perspective.
Absolutely.
And actually, if you've got a completely different opinion or approach to it, tell us about it, because
I'm interested.
That's what I want to know. I want to know how other people approach this.
Josh in the chat said it's not a lifestyle, it's an addiction. So many hobbies are an addiction, aren't they?
It's the same. Yeah.
And he did say earlier, actually, he views things differently to how we do.
Yeah.
So I think he said models, then rules. So models are important to him, then the rules for those models, then the narrative. So he flips that round.
Yeah.
So that we already know from the chat on Twitch that some people do it differently to how we do, and there's nothing wrong with it. I'm genuinely interested.
The hobby is probably approached differently depending on what country it's in as well, because GW's reached out to all these different places. I'm sure if we were to approach people who have had an isolated experience in a separate country, with Games Workshop, it's going to be a completely different story.
Yeah.
We know already that America embraced the ITC, the competitive side of it more.
That's really interesting, right? We've got a load of guys from the States that are in Discord, load of guys. And a lot of them talk about the fact that one of the reasons why they are invested in Deployment Zone and in Warhammer and Winters is because of the narrative focus. Yeah. And they say that because the ITC is, if they, American Rob, who has been on the podcast in the past, says if he plays a pickup game, it tends to be an ITC pickup game. Yeah. And he can't get away from ITC. And when he came and he played on the channel for Deployment Zone, and we filmed a battle report with him, and we played Maelstrom, and he loved it because he doesn't get to play Maelstrom very often because the meta local to him is ITC.
It's ITC, yeah.
And that's another thing.
Americans are competitive by nature.
That's actually an important point for building an army. So we haven't quite finished.
No.
We did talk about previously about if you're competitive or narrative. The limits aren't just competitive or narrative in terms of players because there are many different ways of playing 40k. You've got Maelstrom, you've got Eternal War, you've got ITC, you've got ETC, you've got just normal open play. What type of 40k you play can have a massive effect on how you build an army and how units are effective. ITC, for example, has a massive set of secondaries. Do you know ITC?
Not too well, no. I've heard the basics and I've seen how lists are built for it.
So ITCs have primary and secondary objectives, okay? And your primary objectives are you normally have objective points across at set locations on the map. So when we played into the Hellstorm, they have maybe one in your zone, one in the middle, one in the opponent's zone for the first game, and then might be four pillars in the second game, etc., etc., etc. And then you get primary points. You get point for kill one, point for hold one. So if you hold an objective, you get a point. If you kill a unit, you get a point. Yeah. If you kill more than your opponent, you get another point. If you hold more objectives than your opponent, you get another point at the end of the battle round. Yeah. Okay. So kill one, hold one. So just by holding one and killing one, you get a point. Kill more, hold more, you get additional point.
Well, just from hearing that, I can see already where we're going with this.
Then secondaries is a whole different set of secondaries. Yep. There's a list of maybe 12, I don't know. And they have set criteria. And at the beginning of the game against your opponent, so not before you turn up at the event, but at the beginning of the game, you pick your 3 secondaries.
Okay.
That you can score throughout the game. Some of them are secondaries that you can score each turn. Some of them are secondaries that you can score over the course of the game. So I think Big Game Hunter is one of them, I think it's called, whereby you have to kill 3 models with wounds characteristics of 10 or more. Yep. And if you do that over the course of the game, you get 3 additional points in your secondaries, etc., etc. And there's stuff like that, right? Okay. Instantly, you will build a list differently to just box under Maelstrom.
It's got to be completely different at that point.
So you might put 2 models in your list that have got more than 10 wounds, 2 big models, and you might go, I don't want to add a third because I don't want to give my opponent Big Game Hunter, for example, or Monster Slayer, or whatever it's called. I don't know.
And you're going to be focusing more on nabbing objectives and being cheeky.
And the important, not the important, sorry, the good ITC players out there, when they build their list, they're already building with secondaries in mind, not knowing who their opponents are.
Yeah.
And good ITC lists will be able to play any opponent and run the same set of secondaries and have a chance of getting points. Bad ITC players like me look at your opponent and go, I'll pick these 3 secondaries because, whatever. Because I've played ITC, a tournament, an ITC event once and once only. And I enjoyed it. ITC is an enjoyable way to play.
Yeah.
ITC adds a level of balance that can be missing from other tournament styles.
So you know what you're dealing with.
But it is a whole different way of building a list. Yeah. And that's why that's important.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because even following our steps and our process, where you find something you think is attractive, you read the rules, you read the law, you read the rules, etc.
Yeah.
At a point, the rules stage that you're reading becomes a different build.
There's got to be job roles, haven't there?
Yeah.
You've got to make sure your picks all work towards the specific tasks that ITC is going to put you up against. Because for narrative games, or for us, if we're playing objectives, you can make a toolbox, but there's so many things that it could be. You know what I mean? I'm going to put a Psyker in there so I can try and cast and deny. I need that. I need some anti-tank. It's very basic, isn't it? Like that. That's how you look at things.
So a lot of us who play narrative stuff, you are talking about a generic toolbox of stuff. You want anti-infantry, anti-tank, maybe something to do psychic, a bit of moving. You know, something that's hard to remove, perhaps. I don't know. Because so I might build a list out of my Eternal Slaughter that I can play against your Iron Warriors. I can play against Mordian John's Mordians. I can play against Bronze Ultramarines. And they're all different lists to play against as well. So
and you've got a way to do it with all of them.
Yeah.
But with...
Oh. Ow. I didn't just bang my knee.
No. There's blood everywhere. Sorry.
Yeah. Don't worry about it.
No, with ITC, you're going to be saying, right, I've got to put this in. I've got to put this fast thing in here. He's crying.
I hurt my knee.
Oh my gosh!
Sorry, carry on. Put this fast thing in here.
Yeah, that's it. I'm gone. But you're gonna have to. You're gonna look at units differently.
Yeah.
Right. You're gonna look at the value of a unit differently, and this is what we're talking about with the net lists when you post things online. But they're going to be looking at it and thinking, well, that's a cool thing maybe, but it's not going to help you grab an objective. It's not going to help with the secondaries I usually play. So I'm going to say that's not that good. But actually, in a casual game with other people, they're going to be really great. I think Necrons are a really good example of that as a force. They're generally, people say Necrons aren't very competitive. They're not very good in tournament settings because they're too expensive, blah, 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 whatever. That is when put into an ITC setting or a competitive setting, right? Go down the club, have an army of immortals with destroyers. They're going to mess people up, left, right, and centre. It's a completely different game that you're building for.
So Necrons I 100% agree with you. Okay, so and there's a lot of stuff. The other thing to realise. So I have said to you already tonight that one of the things I would suggest is that you post your list in places if you're, maybe if you're a bit less frivolous with money, for example. And I stand by that. Like, if you find the right community and the right group of people to surround you by, our Discord's an example of that. It's full of wonderful people. You'll get lots of honest opinion and you'll get lots of really positive feedback and stuff as well. But there is a degree of be careful, as I said to you originally. And that's for a couple of reasons. We've covered a couple of them already, but what you've just touched on is actually super important, genuinely. There's a lot of people out there in the 40k universe, and I'm sure this exists in every hobby and every aspect of life, that don't know what they're talking about, but regurgitate something they've heard somewhere else.
Oh, yeah.
So Necrons being rubbish is a thing you hear everywhere, because a few people said it, and then a few more people said it, and it cascades down to Necrons are rubbish. I don't think they're as strong as some books or codexes or armies. Yep. I think they have some strong builds. Yeah. I think actually with Necrons, the internal codex balance is incredibly good. Mm-hmm. Like really, really good. Because it's really hard within the codex of Necrons to pick Unit X against Unit Y.
Yeah, yeah.
It is difficult.
Yeah.
However,
but they are overall quite expensive.
That's the problem, right? So their rules aren't bad. It's just they cost a little bit too much.
A little bit too much to really...
But you go on certain forums or certain groups online and say, I'm thinking about playing Necrons, and everyone will tell you you're a lunatic and don't bother because they're rubbish.
They're trash, yeah.
Again, if you're then playing in a narrative setting, like you've said, they're not going to be that bad.
No.
Unless your narrative play you're playing against isn't all that narrative.
Yeah, yeah. That's true, unless they're really an ITC.
Yeah, or they decide they want to run 3 Chaos Leviathans or something, be that guy.
No one would do that. No one would run multiple Leviathans.
No one is that guy. But that's the thing. But so Leviathans is an interesting one as well, right? Because that's one of those. I love the model.
Yeah,
genuinely.
Leviathans are really controversial.
Yes. And this is one of those things that's another risk with building lists. Okay, and it is a risk. And this depends on, to some extent, how your character is as you as an individual. Leviathans, I'm going to touch on them because it's a hot topic for me because I own 3 of the things, right?
He's going to defend them.
I'm not going to defend them. I'm not going to defend them. Right. Leviathans are insanely strong units within power armored armies.
Yes, yeah. Within context, they are.
Against some other forces, they're not so good, but they're insanely strong.
They're basically
units.
One of the most powerful things you can get within that codex, right? It's not in the codex, but within that army.
Now, I still think in the grand context of 40k, they're not that cheesy. How many armies are you seeing winning events with Trip Leviathans? You don't.
No.
So then they can't be that cheesy. In a vacuum, a Leviathan is very strong.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I own 3 of them. Why? Because I think they are the best looking dreadnought model Games Workshop have ever made.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
Other people think different. I was talking to Rich Skinner, a patron earlier today, who thinks the Deredeo is the nicest dreadnought. And I know a lot of people that hate that model. Yeah. That's preference. That's what I love about the hobby. Yeah. That's what I love about 40k. Make it yours. If you like it and someone else doesn't, who cares?
Yeah, if you like egg robots with giant guns sticking outside of them, it's your choice, mate.
So I think Leviathans are gorgeous models, and I own 3. Yeah. And I've never run 3. I've only ever run 1 at the moment. And depending on what your strength of character is to a degree, if I post a list with 3 Leviathans in certain forums, I'm going to get abuse. Yeah. And a lot of it.
He never runs 3 because he wants to have friends. He doesn't want to lose all his friends.
But this is what I'm saying. I own them because I like them.
Yeah.
Not for any other reason than because I like
That's
them.
cool,
And,
that's cool.
and when I say I like them, I genuinely mean I like the model and I like the rules. The rules
If you
are
wanted
good.
to rock up to a tournament setting with 3 Leviathans, I don't think anyone would have a right to say anything to you because people are going to all be looking for things like that. That's where you can use it, I think.
Yeah.
If we want to play a narrative game and we say to each other, let's get the most savage lists we can bring to fight each other because we're going to have a narrative where it's a huge battle, bring 3 Leviathans. That's fine.
Well,
but you need to judge yourself. Everyone needs to do this. When you go and play someone, everyone needs to be responsible for ensuring that both people are going to have a game that they both want to enjoy. Because if you don't do that, your opponent's going to not be bothered. They're not going to play you again.
Yeah.
They're going to give up on you or whatever. They're not going to enjoy the game. You're not going to enjoy the game. So ultimately, when it comes down to taking multiples of really strong units, whatever, it's totally down to your willingness and how much you like to play with people and want to be able to play with them again.
And to be fair,
you need to regulate it
if
yourself.
you turned to me and said to me, if I had everything I've got painted for the slaughter, and you said to me, I want to play, I don't know, 2,000 points against you, bring the dirtiest list you could, I probably wouldn't be bringing 3 Leviathans, genuinely. Because I don't think they're that cheesy. Maybe at 2,000 points, maybe 2 is a sweet spot. When you're talking the same sort of cost as a Knight Gallant for a Dreadnought, 14 wounds, that I don't.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, I'm not going to go, that's a whole different thing. But what I'm saying is, so in my opinion, as someone who plays a lot of 40k as well, I don't think 3 in a list is all that cheesy. And I've said it before and I stand by that. But if I put that list online, a lot of people would tell me I'm wrong. And some of them would tell me I'm wrong from experience. Yeah. And some would tell me I'm wrong because they've had someone else's experience.
It has propagated. And you know what? Even myself, the reason why I'm talking about it like this, I've never fought 3 Leviathans. Never fought against it. So I couldn't actually tell you that how difficult it was to fight 3 of them. I fought 1 and I've destroyed it in 1 turn of shooting.
Yeah.
But it's propagated through the chat to me.
Yeah.
That Leviathans are
and you
horrible.
have this almost natural...
So I'm even doing that now.
You have this almost natural sort of opinion of them based on other people's opinions of them that are probably based on someone else's opinions of their experience, etc., etc.
That's a weird byproduct of the hobby because none of us can... There's so much to take in, right? In 40k, there's so many units in the game. Yeah. So many combinations that you're not going to have them all yourself. You're not going to have played them all or played against them. Yet, we like to talk amongst other players and we like to have opinions and stuff. And the only way we can really do it is to grasp at the general community knowledge. And that's probably where that kind of thing comes from. So maybe what it is to be a really great hobbyist is to only have opinions or only really push opinions from experience then maybe. I don't know. Not saying that's how you have to do, but maybe that's the most reliable
I get it.
person you can reach.
It's hard though, especially
It'll
if
never
you're
be that
so if we're tackling building lists for someone who's brand new to 40k, that's really hard because they won't have that experience.
I
think they
actually
need to draw from people's other experiences.
A new person coming to 40k, they're going to have a level of learning from experience. They're going to have a level of saying, actually, I was given all this advice. I bought this army. I built this list. I thought these synergies were really good. But actually, I've now played for a year, and now I know what I want to do. And I'm going to sell my army, and there's no, you know what I mean? There's nothing lost.
And it's one of those things, in all seriousness, where I stand by if you can find a community that you can go to without even taking an army with you, you might even have a friend or someone in that community who will lend you an army to play with. I like... let's say I was at a local gaming club and someone says I like the idea of the Eternal Slaughter, I like the idea of World Eaters. I have no problems with lending him that army to play against me a couple of times, for example, so that he can go, actually, I do really like this army, or no, I don't. Because that then gives you that experience if you've never had it before. It's not always possible. I get that. I get it's going to be really hard to probably find communities where they'll happily lend you armies repeatedly to play. But I've got some very close friends of mine, people like Brom and people like Lee, who if I said to Lee, I want to play Tau for a bit, I mean, I've got one anyway, but if I want to play Tau for a bit and I want to play what you've got, he would lend me the army to use. He would, absolutely. So I'm very lucky, and not everyone's in that place. No. If you think you can be in that place, if you think you can find those sorts of people, that's absolutely invaluable experience to play with the army before you've even spent a penny, and you're playing with the army that you want to use, or something akin or similar to what you want to use, because that's like first-hand experience is worth so much more than someone's second-hand experience. Like you said it earlier, where you were talking about a unit that they took once and the dice whiffed, and they now say it's rubbish. That happens. There's people that have taken 3 obliterators. People have taken 3 obliterators, whiffed in the first turn of shooting, and got killed before they could do anything, and they go, "Oh, obliterators aren't that great actually." No, they're really good.
They're actually savage.
But you've had a bad experience, and that happens. And some
Yeah.
people will do that, and they'll put them back in the box, and they'll never get them out again.
Yeah.
So self-experience is definitely really important,
Yeah.
but it is hard to get, and that's a weird balance that I can't solve right now,
No.
especially because it's getting late.
We're trying to solve way too many things right now.
Yeah, so I could chat to you for hours.
Yeah.
I don't want you to get told off by your wife again.
Yeah, I'm in trouble already. Thanks, wife. She's watching as well.
Is she?
Yeah, she knows what time I'm due home.
I bet. Yeah. Right. Okay. Perfect. I think we've pretty much nailed that one.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add to it as a topic?
I think we've actually covered all the little side bits as well that could come off of it.
If you've watched, absolutely. If you've watched this on YouTube, feel free to drop comments below, and myself or Chris, if he bothers to check, will try and get back to you and have a chat to you on YouTube. Ultimately, there's other ways you can get in touch with the channel as well. So if you want advice and help, you are welcome to drop us a line on Facebook or drop us a line on Instagram or something like that. And if you can give us your problem, your issue, then I will do my best. And it's hard because we get a lot of messages. I will do my best to get back to you. Otherwise, if you don't have a community and you can't find one and you really, really want a good community, I urge you to hit the Patreon link below and join us in the Deployment Zone community, the brand new one. The last I checked, we're up to about 188 patrons on the channel already. The community is buzzing, and the sort of advice we're talking about, you will get loads of it. And I mean loads of it. And it's not, you won't just get advice on list building, you'll get advice on painting and hobbying and modelling and converting, and there's I am so madly impressed by that community.
Let me say, yesterday there was a quick example. Is we were actually at a rules question right in the middle of the game. Throw the rules question on the Discord, and you will get you'll get your answer within like 5 minutes.
Detail as well.
In great detail, you get your answer back. In a couple of minutes, and it's very supportive.
The clause says join us. It's Ace. He's right. And Viking XCK says it encourages you to buy more stuff. There is a group of enablers. I'll warn you that much. They are a group of enablers. So if you are a weak-willed individual, it might be worth maybe avoiding it for a little while. That community supports our website. It's been across the screen on the Twitch stream. It's also been on the screen in the YouTube video in the top corner. That's www.deploymentzone.tv. Don't forget to check out the website. We put battle reports on there every single week. There's sit and talks. There's painting tutorials. There's the new Champion of Chaos campaign coming really, 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 really soon. It might just be coming out a couple of days after this video. If not, it'll be the week after. It is coming really soon. I'm so excited for that campaign. And that's off the back of the Death of Hope, which went down a storm. That campaign,
absolutely amazing.
So check out deploymentzone.tv for lots more 40k content, loads more 40k content. A big shout out goes to all the patrons who've joined us already and all the supporters of the channel, because you guys are legend, and Winters and I are battling our asses off to try and do this full time so we can give you even more content, more streams, more sit and talks, more battle reports, more big debates,
everything,
massive debates,
just everything.
So come and support us. Come and join us in the Deployment Zone. It's great fun. A huge shout out goes to Element Games, our sponsors. Those guys are legend. I'm not entirely sure when yours and Matt's wedding day is.
It better be soon. I'm getting antsy.
I want to get a hat.
Yeah.
But Matt's a legend from Element.
Absolute legend.
He's in the new Discord as well. So there's an Ask Element section. You can ask Matt questions about things like orders and stuff if you want to annoy him every day and night.
Be nice.
Yeah, he's a good dude. And Element are legends. Element's a independent retailer up in Stockport. They have sponsored us since day one. They are absolute heroes. So check out Element Games' website. There's a link in the video description below, and that's an affiliate link. So use that one. Don't just search for Element. Use our link below, and they know you came from us. And then all the purchases get accredited to us, and they go, "Oh, actually, Deployment Zone are legends."
Yeah,
and we are.
They already know that we're legends. It makes them even more aware of our legendary status.
Yeah, there's a table.
Yeah,
there's a table of performing affiliates.
Yeah,
we were third this month.
Yeah,
third, Chris. I don't like coming third.
We'll just get rid of all the other ones and just be us.
Yeah. So come on. Yeah. Come on, people.
Come on, guys.
Buy more stuff.
Click the link.
Join Discord, and I'll definitely tell you to buy more stuff.
Yeah.
Perfect. Obviously, there's merchandise and stuff available as well. There's t-shirts and what have you. That's on the merchandise page of the deploymentzone.tv website. I think I've covered it all.
Sounds like it, yeah.
If you're watching on Twitch, hang around for a couple of minutes. We'll go raiding. I have just seen that Mohawk Miniatures has got 9 viewers and he's painting Dreadnoughts misspelt.
Brilliant.
That annoys me instantly. So we'll probably go raiding Jay and give him some abuse.
Yeah.
But otherwise, thank you so much to all you people who joined us on the live stream. Like I said at the beginning of the video, if you want to join us in the future, head on over to Twitch, search for Deployment Zone, hit follow, and you should be notified when we go live. If not, people that are in the Discord also should get a live notification. I found out earlier I broke it.
Oh, brilliant.
When we went live, Ridley came on the chat and went, it didn't give us a notification, and that's because the channel that was originally going live on Discord was Warhammer Liam.
Of course, yeah.
So I need to get one of the admins to change it to Deployment Zone. So that's my fault.
We'll fix that.
But thank you, everyone. You guys are all legends. Everyone in the chat who joined us live tonight, thank you. You're legends. Everyone who's going to comment on YouTube and watch this video, you're all legends. Everyone's legends. Even
Absolute
you, Chris.
Legends. I'm trying to be a legend. You're a legend, Liam. We're all legends.
Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.